should we have a little talk? I think some people are born with their senses turned toward the hidden seams of the world, as if their mind still remembers the places where life was once sacred before everything became noise. And then the world calls it a disorder because it cannot make a factory worker out of them easily. Because a factory wants one rhythm, one bell, one chair, one instruction, one acceptable face, one kind of attention, or one kind of usefulness. But some minds were never made for the straight corridor. Some minds are more like old footpaths in the north. They twist, they disappear under moss, they return beside water, they remember where people walked before maps became official. And if you judge an old footpath by how straight it is, of course you will call it wrong, but the footpath was never wrong. It was made by feet that knew where the living ground was. That is what we do to neurodivergent people. We take a mind made of crossings, echoes, sparks, deep tunnels, sudden openings, strange precision, and we ask it to behave like a hallway. Then we call it difficult when it refuses, but refusal can be holy when the thing being asked of you would cost you your aliveness. Perhaps the refusal is the gift. Perhaps the gift is not only talent or brilliance or creativity. Perhaps the gift is that something in you still resists becoming flat. The modern world wants flat people, people trained to answer fast, smile while being interrupted, swallow useless tasks, sit under deadlight, produce while their body is begging to leave, perform warmth while loneliness chews through them, and call it being well adjusted when the living part of them has learned to play dead. And then there are the ones whose whole being says, I cannot live like this without losing my soul. That is a kind of inner oath you may not even know you are keeping, a vow older than speech, laid somewhere under the breastbone where the old animal in you still knows which fires must never be solved, which part of your life must remain untouched by the hands of a world that does not know how to hold sacred things. In old North Norwegian life, people understood that not every mind came close to the world through the same door. Some entered through labor, some through song, some through grief, some through the hands, some through long looking, some through a silence so deep it made others uncomfortable. There were people who did not learn life by being told. They learned by touching, repeating, wondering, returning, taking the thing apart until its hidden law showed itself. And the elders knew that some knowledge does not enter through discipline. It enters through devotion, through obsession, through the strange loyalty of a person who cannot leave a mystery alone until it finally opens. So yes, neurodivergence can be a gift, but only when it's held correctly. A drum in the wrong hands becomes noise. A mind made for depth can look damaged inside a life with no depth in it. That may be the old grief many neurodivergent people carry. Not that they were born wrong, but that they were given too little terrain for what lived inside them. Like a deep fjord poured into a cup, like a yoik, a song forced into a whisper, like a whole winter sky pressed behind one small window and then blamed for cracking the glass. So the work is to find the right use for the shape you were given, the right rhythm, the right craft, the right people, the right amount of solitude, the right kind of work that does not shame your nature every day, the right language for what moves through you, because a neurodivergent mind often carries its own terrain. It needs space between crossings, silence after human weather, time to enter and leave without being torn, beauty with bone in it, meaning that can be felt in the hands, and permission to kneel beside the small thing everyone else abandoned and still call it sacred. And maybe that is where the ancient part returns. You might think as a fantasy, I feel as design. You see, the world does not need only easy minds. It needs difficult lights. It needs crooked paths. It needs people who still remember that life was never meant to be one long corridor toward exhaustion. Maybe your mind was never failing. Maybe it was carrying a small hidden altar inside the storm, the place where wonder had not yet been taught to lower its voice, the place where beauty was not something pretty placed on top of life, but one of the old medicines that kept the human spirit from going numb, the place where the old world kept one candle burning so you would not forget who you were before the noise. And maybe that candle is the gift, or maybe not. Maybe the real gift was the part of you that kept guarding it even when the world had no reverence for small, holy fires. Maybe the gift was the keeper, the one inside you who stayed awake through the noise, cupped both hands around that trembling light and whispered, "Not this one survives." End of transmission. Bye.
Something that scares you. Take my hand. Do something that scares you. Let me in. When I set my love free. When I set it on fire. I could love you forever if I let go of fear. Would you do something